welcome to the Rise Pico World Summit 2025, the 12th edition. Yes, you heard that right. 12th edition of a unique convening of thought leaders, practitioners, learners, and the spectrum in between. What is uncommon about them is the spirit to collaborate for the greater good. And what is common about them is the belief in the RISE values: responsible, inclusive, sustainable, and ecosystem friendly, as you just saw in the video that was shared. The summit got off to a resounding start and will see over 100 sessions co-created and co-located in multiple cities with almost the same number of partners and over 200 experts from around the globe for a community that is now 9,000 strong from 83 countries. We hope you will continue to explore the platform throughout the week. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Dr. Sapna Poti, the Director Strategic Alliances from the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India. And we are going to have a chat on Mission Uthaan, an initiative to upscale Tier 2 and Tier 3 institutes for the holistic advancement of their network with a special focus on research and innovation excellence. Welcome, Dr. Poti.
Thank you.
You know, Dr. Poti, you have, you when I say is of course the PSA, but of course you are the PSA's office and the work that you're doing. So we kind of think of you alongside with that all the time. Has been a great partner at the RISE Summit for multiple years, and we've been focused on Manthan as a platform, which has been amazing in terms of what it has done and achieved so far. But of course, I know that you have new news for us this time round. So maybe we can talk a little bit about what Manthan has been all about and what has been now the new news or the new work that you have been so passionately pursuing. So yeah, a little bit.
Sure, thank you. And yeah, it's always been a pleasure, Karon, to speak to you and the kind of trajectories that you have been taking as well. So we've been quite lucky with Manthan past 2 years. We have touched about 8,300 crores worth of projects on the platform, out of which about 1,450 crores of project funding has already been disseminated, and the projects have commenced. About 17 centers of excellence, several early stage R&D and open innovations, and so on. Meanwhile, what happened was we realized that most of these projects have been sourced or won by the tier 1 kind of colleges, and tier 2, tier 3 colleges are the ones who are not been able to connect to this thing or win some of them. So that's why we said, okay, I think we need to handhold them a bit more and look at how we can support. Now, when it comes to funding, that's something that we don't get it from the government of India. So we source our funding from philanthropy and so on, and CSR and all of that. So because of which we cannot touch things like CapEx and infrastructure and all that, because CSR does not allow us to spend on that. Hence, we have culled out a project called Uthaan. Uthaan means upscaling of tier 2, tier 3 colleges for the advancement of the nation, because majority of the nation is actually in tier 2, tier 3 colleges, right? So hence we felt that we need to support them, and there are few ways in which we will be able to support. The number one is, of course, early stage R&D, because that's what we stand for.
Wow, there is a saying that man learns from experience, okay? Or maybe to be correct, we should say people learn from experience, right? But the truth is, we don't learn from experience. We learn from the reflection of that experience. And I think you're really proving that having reflected on the success of Manthan, but at the same time identifying these gaps, as you mentioned, of who has benefited and who has not, and then taking that initiative to focus on those who have not, or those who are kind of being left behind, because the SDG says no one left behind. And I think that's a great way that you are already showcasing this, that you are looking at that and identifying, those aspects, and then obviously tackling them. So, Uttan, obviously, like you mentioned just now, is about tier 2, tier 3 cities, which obviously are far more vulnerable and kind of underserved, if I could put it, more than vulnerable, underserved. So how are you looking at serving these colleges, or what is the kind of programs or initiatives that you are doing that will really help to bring them up front and into the spotlight?
Yeah. So like I said, it's very difficult for us, especially because we don't have Government of India funding. So large funds are not allowed, and CSR does not permit capex and infrastructure, and hence we are, funding or rather our concepts, in terms of interventions would all be on softer side, right? So but critical ones. For instance, we want to support them to obtain industry problems and solve some of the early stage R&D projects. So we are matchmaking some of the corporates which are keen on working on tier 2, tier 3 colleges. And they might have to be a bit benevolent, and they might have to be a bit more patient with them and so on, but they're willing to do that. So we are linking them. So for instance, Dassault Systems is one of multinationals. We have connected them to Sher-e Kashmir Agriculture University in Kashmir for them to look at some of their early stage R&D problems. So that's one key area of early stage R&D. The second one is basically to look at capacity building, right? On how to write a problem statement, how to write a CSR proposal, how to do mathematical modeling or statistical tools and analytics and things like that, all that which is supportive of innovation and research. So that's the second large piece that we are looking at, which is capacity building. The third is in terms of them, because they are going to be future researchers and innovators in industry setup, right? Even if they have their own startup, they need to know how an industry runs. And hence we want to request some of the industry R&D centers and large organizations to see if they could support them. So that is the other thing that we are looking at. And hence we have built a questionnaire, a kind of a survey, and send it to all the industries, requesting them to see if they would be interested in supporting tier 2, tier 3 colleges, and how would they like to support. So some kind of a fellowship internship would be good for the faculty members as well as senior researchers. So that's one intervention that we are looking at. Rural technology is the other thing, because we are setting up something called the ROTAG Smart Village Centers, and we'll talk about it a little later. But because of that, we are also seeking support from tier 2, tier 3 colleges, because most of them are from rural milieu. And hence, I think they would be best, suited to develop these rural technologies, and in largely mechanization. It's not very sophisticated that you need a heavy infrastructure. It's fabrication, design, and things like that. So we are also looking at rural technologies to be developed by tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 colleges. So that's the last bit. And of course, one more, which is there's a lot of dependency on foreign institutes and think tanks, where we are hoping that some of these developed countries with a philanthropic bent of mind could come down to India, spend some sabbatical time with the tier 2, tier 3 colleges, because one person or two researchers coming from there would support about 40, 50 faculty members and researchers here. So that's the other thing that we are working on. We talked to Oxford, we talked to many University of Sussex and many others. Some of them have come forward. Uthaan is just about a month old, so that. But we are already have about 20-25 conversations going on.
Well, Uthaan may be a fledgling, but you've already created a powerhouse packed wind beneath their wings. So we can see that there's a lot of things happening already, including international, exchanges. I think that's amazing to even start to think already when it's so fresh and so new. Talking about new, and you also mentioned it, the RUTAG-E Smart Village Centers, right? I think that was something that you actually started while you were working on the Manthan platform, and with again a rural focus with that. So I think having something like that already going, is there any overlap between Uthan, because that's also got a tier 2, tier 3 kind of focus? How do you see that overlap happening, and how do you see that synergy really being leveraged between the two? Yeah.
Right. So Rootag Smart Village Centers, I mean, also got an award by the Social Stock Exchange, as a first prize because of the fact that there are a lot of safeguards here which supports this whole framework, right? One is the monitoring framework, and we have a IT tool which monitors this entire thing. Second is the focus on getting tier 2, tier 3 colleges and their innovations to go on the ground, because bottom of the pyramid wants technologies and innovators need an access to market. And so this kind of beautifully marries both of these. The unique part also is the fact that the innovators are not disturbed about going into communities, trying to engage with them, selling and things like that, because that's not their forte. Their forte is technology development and so on. So they can focus on that. They get the feedback from the Rural Smart Village Center and they keep on innovating. The NGOs are the ones who are running the rural smart village centers. They are the ones who are setting it up. They are the ones who are managing the Sarpanch and the DC and the video and all the village people. So the expertise of these two sections of people has been beautifully utilized here in this framework, right? And then they work together. So the feedback goes back to the innovator innovates and then keeps returning it. And Manthan also has a role to play because on a regular basis, they put up on Manthan and they get a lot of innovations from Manthan, and they handpick those innovations and take it to the ground. So this is how the circle happens. So the tier 2, tier 3 colleges have a large presence on Manthan. Many of their innovations are already there, and research work is also there.
At our Koru Center, we talk about systems ownership and value co-creation. I think you're really proving it that there are 3 different initiatives, and yet the way you're leveraging it and creating ownership within the whole ecosystem really talks about the value creation process. So really happy to be able to maybe map some of our tools with what you are doing and frameworks and models. So looks really, really interesting. To kind of go back to, go back to the Rutagi, I think the E over there really stands for the employment and entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Again, when you talk of synergy and co-creation, normally if you're looking at employment, you're focused on employment, or if you're looking at entrepreneurship, you're focused on entrepreneurship. You have again created a model that kind of leverages the entire ecosystem to tackle both simultaneously. So maybe a little bit on that, if you will.
Sure. You've actually touched a very, very sensitive part here, because this is one of the most important thing in RSVC. It's not only technology being a catalyst or technology deployment, it's also to encourage employment, local entrepreneurship, and something which I call as tech prana, right? So what we are trying to do is there are some parallel tracks under the umbrella of RSVC, right? RSVC sounds as if it's just a physical center, but it's actually not. First thing what we did was we said that, and this is my thought process, that you can be technology ready, you can be market ready, but maybe you're not village ready. So a seminal work of village readiness level, VRL level, is something that we worked on. And I was very fortunate that I had Krishnan, who is one of my IIT Madras alum, who put this, whole entire exercise of a technical framework which developed a village readiness level. And there we had IITs, IIM, Professor Anil Gupta and Wilcro, Social Alpha, some of the best, minds put together. We had several workshops on this. And then we, came up with this village readiness levels. And we also developed an IT tool, which now gives you a score. So if you have an innovation, for instance, Karon, which is water related, you could get into this IT tool and, answer the questions that have been asked. And then you get a score in terms of, are you village ready or not? Is it cost effective? Does it increase the entrepreneurship or the local livelihood and things like that? So a lot of such questions are asked. So that's one thing. The second is that we have a very critical root tag in the RSVC, which is called LCB fertilizer, which is organic fertilizer. Very soon our land and our, the soil is just not going to be worthy of anything. And hence we need to have this as a revolution, literally like the milk revolution. We need to have a organic fertilizer revolution, a technology revolution, or a technology cooperative, if I can call that, right? Why? Because of the fact that this is one root tag, which is a solution by one of the IITs. And it's provided free of cost, and you generate a local entrepreneur there. And all the ingredients which go into this are basically to do with cow dung and the local, soil and things like that. So that is something that we sell, and the RSVC also gets some funding because of that. And that's the other thing, that it has to be sustainable. We don't believe in village center, sapping in funds. It has to be sustainable on the year-on-year basis. And in fact, we also are looking at an ROI and an investment model for each of these RSVCs. So a bunch of 10 could be like a bond, impact bond kind of thing. So so that's the second one, where we are looking at local entrepreneurship through LCB fertilizer sale and development. And then we are also, looking at bead making and many other livelihood related water monitoring tool, cold storages, vending card. 15 of those, our principal scientific advisor, Professor Ajay Sood, has mentioned that it has to be free of cost. And that's a huge achievement for us, because IIT technology is getting it free of cost in terms of technology transfer is a big one. So any local entrepreneur today can pick it up and develop it, sell it wherever he wants to, because there's a huge demand. Vending card, for instance, there are so many cards around, right? So that's one thing. And then we also are looking at employment. Of course, the 3 people who are going to be in the center, which is our center head, and then we have the finance resource who is going to support people to buy the technology in terms of, do they need a Mudra loan? Do they need NABARD to support them, or the FPO has funding and things like that? So organizing the funding for purchase of technology, and looking at resource mobilization. So these are 3 people who are already there. Woman largely would be the center head, or an ex-serviceman is what we are saying. And we are also, we have already talked to the resettlement Director General to look at ex-servicemen. So we have a whole repository of that. And then meanwhile, I'm also working on a parallel track, and which is what I'm requesting IRMA, which is now called Tribhuvan University, to work on something called the Tech Prana, RSVC Tech Prana. So here, what we're looking at is like foot soldiers selling technologies, right? That's why I'm calling it a cooperative, because we don't need to then depend on a center. So even if the center is going to take time, parallelly you work on this, where you have science graduates in any case in most of these villages. There are people who are sitting at home. They have gone to a tier 2, tier 3 college and gone back and sitting at home. So we want to train them on how to do a baseline, how to do a survey of a route tag, technologies, what are required, how to go on Manthan, pick up those rural innovations, post on Manthan in case they have a typical problem for which rural innovation is not available, and so on. And then marketing skills, and of course showing the videos, and IT skills in terms of showing the videos and things like that, and making a sale. The minute they make a sale, something like an Amway, they get an incentive by the innovator. So that will keep them going, and that will also ensure there's hunger. Yeah, we don't want to feed them stipend and this inputting of funds and so on. So be it an RSPC, I wanted it an investment model. The villagers should be able to buy the technology through all the schemes that are available, plus the loans and microfinancing, and incentivization of this local tech program. So to run this complex engine, we have to now look at a center of excellence, and that's the other big piece, because the entire supply chain, selection of those 12 tracks. So we have 12 tracks here: water, sanitation, assistive technology, agriculture services, livelihood, NRLM, so the whole host, so technology as a catalyst for all of this, right? Affordable housing, of course, and then we also have others in terms of government schemes, taking government schemes to the rural area. We have put up a help desk there, which is an Atal Seva Kendra, which also talks about data analytics in terms of who are the beneficiaries, which schemes work well, and so on, so that can be fed back to the ministries. So there are a whole host of things that we are doing through technologies.
Wow. I mean, I'm still trying to absorb and keep up with you. It is amazing to hear this. Not only are you doing this at scale, but you're doing it at lightning speed. So
Yeah.
I am like just trying to, grasp all of this.
And mainly without a single rupee of funding. Huh?
Don't even tell me about it. I mean, this is just simply amazing. So, I've learned new words also while listening to you. So, the first is, of course, village readiness. I mean, yes, we understand, you have to be that the rural context is different, except, but the word, village readiness in itself is amazing to hear that, and so good to hear it, in fact, because it reinforces that if you are not ready for the village, then you should not be going there or not expect that to be your market or to be the consumer ready for you, right? So I think it is you who have to be ready for the village and not the other way around. So that's brilliant. The second new word I heard, and I hope all my viewers and all our members have caught this as well, is you said technology cooperative. I mean, that's again something amazing to hear.
Product cooperative.
Yes, I mean, amazing. So maybe, that's something I want to kind of understand a little bit more. And the third, which you spoke, because again, when you say cooperative, it's about, co-creation, value co-creation. And third, you said was a woman head, right? That is the requirement. So again, that focus on woman entrepreneurship, right? Or a woman kind of empowerment, right? I think is a core part of what you're doing. So if you could maybe talk a little bit about maybe the women entrepreneurship piece of this, I think would be wonderful to hear that as well and kind of take that further. Yes.
So, techpreneur is something like a gig worker, right? He's an informal person. So, who's owning him? There's nobody who's owning him. And hence, initially, there will be an RSVC which will monitor him and own him. But then very soon, we need to have a center of excellence which manages this, these kind of people, ensures that they get a supply chain of the innovations, ensures after sales of these technologies, ensures that these people are incentivized properly and things like that. And hence, you need to make cooperatives to be able to manage that. That cooperative has to be under the RSVC, and then finally, the RSVCs have to be under the Center of Excellence that we are planning in terms of RSVC techpreneur grid supply chain is what I'm saying. Because it's a grid which is across the nation and it needs supply chain, it needs local warehouses, all of that. So literally like an Amazon of sorts for science and technology.
Amazing. Really amazing. I don't think I have heard of this kind of a concept. But simply amazing and more power to you for sure. Yeah. So maybe we can also talk a little bit about the women.
We're talking to UP government. Let's see if they can fund this because this needs a lot of funding. Because there are anchor leads for each of the 12 tracks. The anchor lead has to approve the innovation that we are queuing up in the RSVC and so on.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. Do you want to talk about the women empowerment piece? And women
Yes,
entrepreneurs?
the women empowerment is pretty easy. We are very clear that the center head has to be a woman. In fact, we have requested Emphasis and Nudge Foundation to see if they can fund all of the women entrepreneurs, women center heads that we are planning to hire. Mainly because most of the livelihood related projects and the root tag, etc., is for women. So they need to empathize with them, be it bead making, or sutli making and all kinds of machinery and technology is for largely for women. And we feel that accounting and honesty or all of that would also be part of the story. So that's why.
That's beautiful. That's really wonderful to see. And I think that's the one
And the
thing.
first batch of tech products that I was talking about, where we do a capacity building of these tech products on how to do a baseline study, how to scout for rural innovation and market it and sell it and so on, would be women. We are planning a first batch to be women, and we kind of got a CSR commitment from somewhere, but we need to freeze it before we talk about it.
And I'm sure you will do that without a doubt. I think once you put your heart and head to something, you definitely get it done. So
Right.
look forward to the positive news in the very near future, for sure.
Yeah.
I think to go back to Uttan for a bit, I think a
Yeah.
lot of the work, I believe.
Uthaan is how we pronounce it. Uthaan means, upscaling or taking it. Uthana.
Okay, got it. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So, to go back to Uthan, right? I think a lot of this work has been based on two reports that you spoke about some time back. Was about the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report, right, of
Yeah, yeah.
25, and then of course
And we did
the
a lot of roundtables also with the Chevening LM, as well as I think you were also part of that. And then we also had roundtables with some experts from industry, academia, and all of that. And the secondary research and the roundtables, plus our own thought process in terms of what would fit in with the limitations of not having large amounts of funding available and yet making sharper interventions. That is how Uthaan was designed.
Great, awesome. And of course, there was the second report, which was with FICCI and EY, which was
Yeah, so both of them were the secondary research that we did.
excellent.
And incidentally, we also launched Uthaan recently, a soft launch in Mangalore in a beach startup festival, which is our flagship program. Emerge 2025 is a flagship program of Uthaan, where all tier 2, tier 3 college innovations and innovators from across Karnataka had showcased their work.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to also get you to talk about this to our large community.
Yeah,
And of
yeah.
course,
I
later.
think these are the, one or two first initial, conversations that we are having. Because like I said, it's a 1 month old project. It's just started, whereas Manthan has been there for 2 years.
For 2 years.
And
Absolutely.
RSVC has been there for 3 months, sorry.
Excellent, excellent. So again, here in Uthaan, there are multiple programs under it, as you spoke about
Yeah.
a little bit towards that. So when you talk about, the whole industry academia synergy, right? How are you looking at that? And then how are you looking at this innovative course development and dissemination? I think these are two very critical pieces that will be the foundation, I would suppose, for the other aspects of the program to be there. So what is
Yeah.
if it could.
Yeah, so like I mentioned that we are surveying the industry and in fact one of our other Chevening alum Ipsita Sapra. So she has from this given us interns, and that's the other thing. Not only don't we have funding, we don't even have manpower resources. So because of the dearth, we manage with interns and so on. So she's given us a couple of interns very haplessly without thinking that, how we're going to use them. So they are international policy making, group that has joined, about 4 of them. And so 2 of them, we have put them on the job for, a survey of foreign institutes and think tanks in terms of what they can offer to India. And the other 2 have been, basically deployed on the industry part. So we have built the questionnaire, and we've also requested them to add in some more questions in terms of what is the motivation factor for a faculty member or a foreign institute to come in, and what is the motivation for the industry to support tier 2, tier 3, so that we ensure that we also provide what they require. So there's a demand orientation on this aspect. So that's how we are doing this thing. In terms of course building and informative courses and interesting dissemination of information, that's largely we are doing it along with our tier 1 colleges, So all the different domains, we have experts in tier 1. So we are connecting them and we are requesting them to do the content development and so on. And we have YouTube Health and some others who are also on this thing. So we've started that work as well. Develop things on AMR and quantum AI, some of these emerging technologies.
Awesome, awesome. So, part of what you all have also spoken about under the Uthan is to say that it is society centric and then emerging technology courses. So, when you talk of society centric, I mean, we are obviously talking of 3 aspects. We are talking about the social aspect, we are talking about the economic aspect, and then we're talking about the environmental aspect, right? All of these kind of come together because you're working on agri, waste, water, we are working on women empowerment. So there is everything, and of course entrepreneurship. So there is all the 3 elements in it. But one of the things, and this is a question I asked quite a few of my plenary thought leaders, global thought leaders, and I'd like to ask you, do you know of any word, like we have the word economic, we have the word socio-economic, but do you know of any word that talks about all the 3 together? Any guesses, or any, if you know?
I would just call it human centric, and everything comes under that.
Human-centric becomes a little contextual. So one of the things that we've done is, of course, talk about socio-environnomic program. Because then it's very clear, because all these other words, whether it is development, regeneration, or as you said,
Yeah.
human-centric, becomes contextual. So
Right.
Please, please.
So for us, technology and science, is a catalyst for everything, right? Environment, but if you are not human centric in the sense that if you have not kept your customer in front of you as a like a villager or a SHG and so on. I mean, let me give you an example. One of our technologists, very renowned technologists from Stanford, two women from Bangalore, they made a very sophisticated financial inclusion tool for tech for our SHG women, right? From Rajasthan. And those people, I mean, they had used the best algorithm and the best, Stanford educated. So they had all the knowledge and things. Very sophisticated technologically. But the SHG women rejected it. They said, we don't understand what you do. So the learning there was, and this is something that you would see in the episode. I mean, I'm not sure if you know that I had written a script for a reality show of Amazon Prime called Mission Startup, right? This Mission Startup has these episodes, and in that very clearly that comes out that you need to know your customer, and that is why human centric. That means you need to know the human that you're just like the banks, how they know us, and they how is it that only elite person is a customer? When you're making agriculture, you need to immerse yourself, ag tech or a drone or whatever. You have to immerse yourself with the farmer. And similarly, it is with SHG and all that. So that is the clash that happened in this thing, and the episode, showcases it very clearly. Know your human.
Yeah. I think, we did something similar with entrepreneurs who are kind of part of self-help groups, but also who are created as digital suckies, who are going to work with others for technology to take government schemes. And, one very interesting thing when we were doing the program for them, because obviously we had to speak in the local language. So we had nothing but images, just images. And even with that, and we finally gave them an Excel sheet, mind you, okay, to look at and then, identify the areas they needed for their development. And it was so wonderful, just with images, they could immediately identify. So had we done it like a typical program where we have all the information and everything on the slide, it would have gone over their head completely, right? But the very fact that make sure that you use a language which is easily understood by everyone, that makes all the difference. So I totally understand what you get, and that was a pleasant surprise for us, because we were little apprehensive whether they would be able to understand how to identify the tick mark for each area, and they actually could tell us like, no, yahan pe nahi, yahan pe, kind of, and like, it's not this part, I need that part or whatever. So I think, yes, what you say is so true. And I think we see it all the time where we come up with fantastic products and services, but at the end of the day, it doesn't reach the intended consumer because of this one reason, right? We have not started from the consumer end to design it rather than the other end. So yeah, thank you for reinforcing that one. And I think another feather in your cap, series with Amazon on this. Amazing, amazing. And I'm sure it'll take a lot of people to it to see it as well. So sometime back, I had seen, on social media that the Ministry of Cooperative had spoken about IRMA, the Institute of Rural Management, and talking about cooperatives. So how is it that ministries are getting involved in this, and what is happening within the government ecosystem itself, and how is this impacting that and vice versa?
Right. So, like I said, it's just been 3 months since we conceptualized this and we got this social stock exchange price, etc., which also ensured that we understand that we are in the right direction, because it's a new thing for us. So, meanwhile, we have started engaging with each of the line industries, and we have presented it to them and so on. So the Ministry of Agriculture is very keen that they are part of this. The Joint Secretary also wanted to be part of the steering committee. And then we also have, so the Agriculture Ministry has something called Vistar. Vistar is something that they're doing with Mr. Nandan Nilekani, where they are, working on some agriculture stack, etc. So they wanted physical centers which can take it to the ground. And that's one thing that we will be doing in the RSVC. So that is one interest that they have shown. Similarly, Ministry of Animal Husbandry has liked some of the RUTAG, technologies like cow lift. We also have a non-RUTAG one called animal intrusion, which is part of RSVC and so on. So some of these they have shown interest, Ministry of Animal Husbandry. Today, we spoke to Ministry of Labor, and they were interested that some of the technology can be used for trading and, how to go for adult education and so on. And so they're very keen on that. So, we'll be putting it up on Manthan, and the content, etc., will be developed, and that's what we will take it to the ground.
Wow. So this is again another example of ecosystem, development, ownership, and of course, value co-creation between different stakeholders and partners. So I think we're coming to the end of our time, but I do want to ask you one last thing, because I think not only do you have these three, but you also have the Mitti, initiative as well, which is kind of there. So maybe that could be one of the last things that you could, let us know more about, and be really great to understand along with the other three. Yeah.
Right, right. So, MITI is basically Manthan IFIA. IFIA is International Federation for Inventors Association. Tier 2, Tier 3 colleges, Innovation Hub. So that's what the full form of MITI is. So what does it mean? Initially, what happened is that we always had academic institutes, incubating startups, doing early stage R&D and all that, which is fine. But if we want our startups to be serious and solve problems and so on, and especially the tier 2, tier 3 colleges where there are no industry hubs or innovation parks, like how IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, even IIC for that matter, they all have industry parks, right? Where industry comes and sets up their base and works together with the academia. Those startups which get incubated with industry mentoring are absolutely fantastic. And what we need is, a similar background where the tier 2, tier 3 go to industries, see how, there's a punch in, punch out, how difficult it is, deliverables, time-based, innovation and research, which is top end and things like that. So all that is what we want them to learn, and that is why we feel that it's good to have these innovation hubs. And industry does not focus on setting up hubs. They're good at innovation, they're good at mentoring, but they have no clue how to do the shared services, how to get investors and so on. So that's why we decided on MITI. We have a consortium. I've got the best minds as a consortium, which we'll set up for a small fee, right? So the consortium has ex-FITT, and right now he's in BITS Pilani, one Mr. Professor Wali. We also have Dr. Shiv, who set up an Atal Innovation Hub in Tier 2, Tier 3 in Andhra Pradesh. We have a private sector investor and an incubator from Bangalore, Mr. David. Then we have Anand from IFIA that I was talking about. We have Krishnan from Itihas and so on. And of course, we also have our office. So the whole idea is all these people who have set up several innovation hubs, innovation and not incubation, because innovation has early R&D, and then it has incubation, and it has pilot and scale up. So these are the people who will be setting it up and, for 2-3 years, handholding the organization, and then getting investors and so on. The whole idea is for these startups to build some as intrapreneurs and solve the problems of the industry, and some non-competitive ones, so that they can move out after 5 years and then work on their own space. That is what it is.
So thank you very much, Dr. Poti. I mean, I think there's a lot for us to all to absorb and to understand that there's a lot happening too, right? There is an opportunity over here, opportunity for all the stakeholders in this ecosystem, be it obviously government, but natural, but also for industry, also for civil society, and then finally academia. So you've got all those four key, what we call the JICA, stakeholders together to really create something that is of great value creation. I can tell you for a fact that personally, I've been a part of some of the roundtables, and it's been amazing conversations that really let you know that people are hungry to do more, and they want to see the needle move. I think it's not just about taking up a project just because we want to take up a project, but we want to see the needle move. And for that, you need to have innovation, you need to have scale, you need to be lightning speed. So I think bringing all those together, which you have been able to do so wonderfully with all these initiatives, I think really speaks volumes. And so for us at the Koru Center, and of course, Idobro, Rise Infinity Foundation, we're really keen to be able to explore those synergies and continue to work, of course, and continue to have you coming up with new ideas and new initiatives that can bring, of course, create a better world and a greener planet for all. especially those who are more underserved and kind of remote and left behind in more cases. So thank you very much for everything that you do, and thank you for being a partner. And we look forward to continue this and build on this. Thank you so very much.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.